Arthur tackles some surprisingly serious illnesses. In one episode, Buster starts coughing and choking after being exposed to dust, and it gets scary enough that he needs medical attention. But another episode takes things even further when Arthur and his friends have to face the possibility of losing someone they love to cancer. The episode opens with Arthur and Buster playing one of their usual imagination games. They pretend they're hunting a made-up creature called the Dangerous Snig while crawling through the grass with butterfly nets. The boys describe the creature as something scary that hides in with the trees and makes a loud aroo sound, but almost right away, the game gets interrupted by DW. She joins in by pretending to be the Snig, wearing fake antlers and making the sound herself. Arthur and Buster quickly get annoyed because in their minds, she is ruining the game. They explain that the Snig is supposed to blend in and be hard to find. This scene already tells us a lot about the relationship between these characters. Arthur and Buster want control over the game and the rules, while DW just wants to be included, but instead of really letting her play, they mostly treat her like she's doing everything wrong. Trying to fit in, DW decides to camouflage herself by putting leaves on her clothes. It's actually kind of sad and funny at the same time because she clearly wants their approval. She even complains that she always has to play the Snig and never gets to switch roles with them. And then the scene suddenly turns chaotic. When Arthur and Buster go looking for her again, DW jumps out wearing poison ivy without realizing what it is. The boys instantly panic and run away screaming while DW chases after them, confused about why the game suddenly changed. What makes this opening work so well is how realistic it feels. It captures the way younger siblings often get left out of older kids' games without fully understanding why. DW thinks she's finally playing correctly, but Arthur and Buster only focus on the disaster she accidentally caused. It's also a smart setup for the rest of the episode. Even though this moment is played for laughs, it introduces a bigger idea. Kids don't always understand danger until it affects them personally.
Shh! We're hunting the dangerous Snig. It has big horns, and it makes a terrifying sound like this. Aroo! And it's really hard to find because it blends in with the trees. Aroo! Aroo! I hear it! I hear it! This way! Aroo! 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 DW! You're not camouflaged at all! It's supposed to be hard to see you. And the aroo has to be much scarier, like this. Aroo! Okay.
Why do I always have to be the Snig? Why can't one of them be the Snig for a change? There, that should do it.
Once again, we're hunting the dangerous Snig. It has big horns, and they know that, Buster. I hear it! Let's go! Roar! Oh, no! DW, you're wearing...
Poison ivy? I thought we were playing Dangerous Snig. Arthur, you can't keep changing games. Wait up!
Later that night, the episode slows down and shows the consequences of what happened in the park. DW is now covered in itchy red spots from the poison ivy, while her mom puts calamine lotion on her skin to help with the itching. But the important part of the scene is not really the poison ivy itself, it's DW's reaction to it. When she looks at herself in the mirror, she becomes embarrassed and worried that everyone will run away from her. Arthur tries to comfort her by saying that people won't avoid her, but DW quickly reminds him that he and Buster already did earlier. That line is simple, but it hits harder than the show plays it. From DW's perspective, the boys didn't just run from poison ivy, they ran from her. It's one of those small moments that feels very real to childhood. Kids often take things personally, especially when they already feel left out. DW doesn't fully understand the situation scientifically. She just remembers the emotional part, her brother screaming and running away from her. The episode also suddenly shifts Arthur into a new role here. His mom decides that he should help distract DW so she won't scratch the rash, and Arthur clearly looks surprised by this responsibility. That reaction matters because it shows the difference between how kids and adults see family responsibility. Arthur sees DW as annoying most of the time, but his parents expect him to help take care of her anyway. It's a very normal older sibling situation, and the episode captures that feeling without making Arthur seem completely mean.
It itches!
This calamine lotion will help, honey.
Look at me. Everyone's gonna run away from me.
No, they won't, DW.
You and Buster did.
It'll go away, DW. The important thing is not to scratch. Arthur will help distract you.
I will?
The next morning, the episode keeps building on DW's insecurity in a way that's both funny and surprisingly sad. She decides to wear Arthur's hockey mask and oven mitts so nobody can see her poisoned ivy rash. When Arthur asks why she's wearing the mask, DW explains that if people can't see her, they won't run away from her anymore. That line says a lot about how deeply the earlier moment affected her. Even though the poison ivy is temporary, DW already feels ashamed of how she looks. The episode understands something very true about kids. Embarrassment can feel huge, even over something adults see as minor. Now at the sugar bowl, Buster immediately notices something strange about DW and why is she wearing a hockey mask indoors. DW tries to act tough and defensive when he questions it, which feels realistic for a kid trying to hide insecurity behind attitude. Arthur explains the situation to Buster and says he's supposed to help DW feel better, and this is where the episode makes a really smart transition. Instead of laughing at DW, Buster suddenly remembers a time when he felt scared and different because of a health problem. The episode flashes back to a rainy afternoon in the treehouse where Arthur and Buster are reading old joke books together. At first, the scene feels cozy and normal. They laugh at dumb jokes, mess around, and act like typical kids. But in the background, Buster keeps coughing more and more. At first, neither of them takes it seriously. It just seems like a normal cough. But then, the tone suddenly changes when Buster starts struggling to breathe. And this is where the episode quietly becomes much heavier than you expect from a normal episode of Arthur. The reason this moment works is because it captures how fast a child's world can change. 1 second, the boys are laughing at terrible jokes. The next, Buster can barely breathe. That sudden shift makes the scene feel genuinely scary, especially for younger viewers who may have experienced a medical emergency.
DW, do you have to wear my hockey mask?
If people can't see me, they won't run away.
Hi, Arthur. Hi, DW.
I'm not DW, I'm Otis.
Why do you have a hockey mask on? Otis?
I don't want to get hit in the face with a puck. You got a problem with that?
She's got poison ivy, and she thinks people will run away from her. I'm supposed to make her feel better.
Oh. Hey, Arthur, remember back in the fall when I had that really bad cough?
What cough?
You know, the cough that started everything?
Check out these old joke books I found in the basement.
Hey, what did the banana say to the hippo?
What?
Nothing. Bananas don't talk.
Buster, are you okay?
Having trouble breathing.
Back in the present, Buster tries to explain what the asthma attack felt like. He says breathing became so hard that it felt like trying to breathe through a clogged straw. The episode smartly uses a simple example kids can understand. DW first thinks breathing through a straw sounds easy, so Buster demonstrates by drinking her milkshake and explaining that the straw would feel impossible to breathe through once it was filled up. It's a funny scene, but it also shows the episode trying to teach young viewers what asthma actually feels like in a non-scary way. Instead of using complicated medical language, the show turns it into something visual and easy to imagine. Arthur then remembers how serious the situation became after Buster left for the doctor's office, and this is where the flashback reveals something important about Arthur's character. Arthur becomes completely convinced that the asthma attack was his fault because he showed Buster the old dusty joke books. He starts panicking and blaming himself, even though his dad tries to explain that it wasn't really his doing. That reaction feels very realistic for a kid. Children often connect random events together and assume they cause problems they don't fully understand. Arthur sees the dust, sees Buster get sick afterward, and immediately jumps to guilt. Meanwhile, the doctor explains that dust and mold triggered Buster's asthma. She reassures him that with medicine, he can still do the things he loves, and this part of the episode is important because it avoids turning asthma into something hopeless or tragic. The show treats it seriously, but it also makes it clear that asthma does not stop Buster from being himself. But even though Buster stays calm about it, Arthur reacts in the exact opposite way.
I didn't know what was wrong with me. It felt like I was trying to breathe through a straw.
So, I can breathe through a straw.
A straw that's clogged. Allow me to demonstrate. See? You can imagine how hard it is to breathe through a straw full of milkshake.
No, I can't. I don't have any milkshake left.
I remember that day. Your mom came and took you to the doctor's right away. This is all my fault.
How could it be your fault?
It's because I showed him those dirty books. That's what made him sick. I just know it.
The dust and mold from the old joke book made it hard for you to breathe because you have asthma.
Asthma? Does this mean I can't read books anymore? Or tell jokes? Or laugh?
Don't worry, Buster. If you take your medicine, you can do all the things you like.
It didn't seem like such a big deal. To me.
Back at school, Arthur becomes overly protective almost immediately. He starts acting like Buster is extremely fragile, cleaning his books for him and worrying that even a tiny bit of dust could cause another attack. Francine also acts nervous around him, almost treating asthma like something dangerous or contagious. This is one of the smartest parts of the episode because it shows a very common problem. Sometimes people react to medical conditions with fear instead of understanding. Arthur means well, but he stops treating Buster normally. Instead of seeing him as his best friend, he starts seeing him as someone who could break at any second. And you can already tell Buster feels uncomfortable about it. He doesn't want to be treated like a completely different person just because he has asthma.
If he gets even one little bit of dust up his nose, he can't breathe. It could happen any time.
Is asthma contagious? Shh, there he is.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Buster. Here, let me take those for you. There you go, buddy. All clean now.
Thanks.
Has anyone seen my penicillin? Penicillin pen?
So, Buster, if your asthma goes off, do you get to leave class?
Maybe. Just to get my medicine.
Just to get your medicine? I bet that could take a long time.
As the flashback continues, the episode starts showing how rumors and misunderstandings spread among kids. When Buster leaves to visit the nurse's office, the others immediately start guessing what's happening to him. Francine wonders if he might get sent to a special school for sick kids, while Binky thinks Buster is just pretending so he can skip class early. That conversation may sound exaggerated, but it feels very believable for elementary school kids. None of them fully understand asthma yet, so their imaginations fill in the blanks. The episode does a good job showing how children often respond to medical issues with confusion, jokes, or wild assumptions instead of facts. Then the misunderstanding gets even worse when they spy on Buster using his inhaler. Binky mistakes it for a kazoo and assumes Buster is faking the whole thing. What's interesting is that the show never makes the kids seem evil. They're immature and uninformed, but they're acting the way a lot of real kids probably would at that age. The episode is less about cruelty and more about ignorance. Arthur, meanwhile, keeps becoming more protective in ways that are honestly a little uncomfortable. In the cafeteria, he literally blows powdered sugar off Buster's donut before letting him eat it because he's scared the dust could hurt him. Again, Arthur means well, but his fear is starting to take over his behavior. He's treating Buster less like a normal friend and more like someone who constantly needs supervision. Then recess gives us one of the funniest scenes in the episode. Binky dramatically pretends to have plasma instead of asthma, collapsing to the ground and gasping for air. Buster immediately corrects him, clearly annoyed, while Binky awkwardly blames the word itself for sounding confusing. The humor works because it shows how little the kids actually understand the condition. But underneath the joke, you can tell Buster is getting tired of being treated differently or turned into the center of attention. That feeling becomes even clearer when Arthur, Francine, and Binky secretly spy on him using his inhaler in the nurse's office. The moment Buster catches them, the three kids literally fall into the room trying to cover up what they were doing. And honestly, this is probably one of the most realistic childhood moments in the whole episode. Kids are curious about things they don't understand, especially medical conditions, but instead of simply asking questions directly, they whisper, stare, and spy. Buster notices all of it. Even though his friends think they're helping or just being curious, they're making him feel separated from everyone else.
I'll see you guys in the cafeteria. I have to go to the nurse's office.
Why does he have to go there?
Maybe they're gonna move him to a special school for sick kids.
He's probably faking it to go home early. See? I knew he was faking it. He's just playing the kazoo.
That's his inhaler. He's taking medicine to help him breathe.
Whoa! What are you guys doing here?
You found my glasses! We were just looking for them. Whoa, now we can all go to lunch. Watch out, Buster! Here you go. It's safe now.
Can't breathe. Tell the nurse I think I have plasma.
Don't you mean asthma, Binky?
Oh, stupid word, too many consonants all smushed together.
The baseball scene is where the episode really shows how isolated Buster has started to feel. During the game, Buster gets a good hit and runs toward the base, but Francine suddenly drops the ball instead of tagging him out. At first, she claims it was an accident, but Buster can tell she was afraid to touch him. What makes the moment interesting is that the show briefly lets us see things from Francine's point of view. In her imagination, Buster's breath almost looks dangerous, like he could spread germs just by breathing near her. That small visual tells us everything. Even though nobody fully understands asthma, fear has completely taken over their thinking. And for Buster, this is the moment where it becomes emotionally painful. Earlier, the jokes and awkwardness were annoying, but now his friends are physically avoiding him. He realizes they no longer see him as normal. The next scene quietly reinforces that feeling. While the other kids continue happily playing baseball outside, Buster is stuck inside the nurse's office getting another inhaler. The image is simple, but it says a lot without dialogue. The other kids are outside together having fun, while Buster is separated from the group.
Why did you do that? You had me out.
It was an accident.
No, it wasn't. I saw you drop the ball on purpose. What's wrong, Francine? Are you okay?
Stay away! Stay away! Ow! Gotcha!
After that, the episode reaches an important turning point. Buster suddenly announces that he's cured. He tries to prove he no longer has asthma by dramatically smelling a dusty math book and pretending everything is fine. But it becomes obvious pretty quickly that he's not actually cured. He just wants everyone to stop treating him differently. That's what makes this part of the episode surprisingly mature. It understands that sometimes people hide medical problems, not because they feel healthy, but because they're tired of feeling excluded or pitied. And sadly, his friends accidentally prove his point almost immediately. Francine admits she's relieved because now she doesn't have to worry about catching asthma anymore. That line hurts because it shows Buster's friends still do not understand his condition at all. Even after everything, they still treat asthma more like a contagious disease than a medical condition. You can tell the comment bothers Buster too. He doesn't argue or get angry. He just goes quiet. Then the final scene in this section subtly confirms that Buster was lying about being cured. When the group walks past the nurse's office, Buster stops after spotting the inhaler inside. For a second, he hesitates, but instead of admitting he still needs help, he quickly follows the others to lunch. It's a small moment, but it says a lot about childhood embarrassment. Buster would rather hide his condition than risk being treated like an outsider again.
Guess what? I'm cured.
Really? Are you sure?
Sure, I'm sure. Could I do this if I had asthma? Ah, math.
But that's not an old book.
Yeah, but it must have some dust in it. I've never opened it.
So you don't have to use that kazoo anymore?
Nope.
Well, I'm glad that's over. Now I don't have to worry about catching asthma.
What is it, Buster?
It's Boston cream pie today. If we don't hurry, it'll all be gone.
Yeah, pie. Let's get that pie.
The hockey scene is where Buster finally reaches his breaking point. At first, everything seems normal. The kids are outside playing street hockey with brooms and a soccer ball, yelling and having fun like always. Buster even scores a point and tries to celebrate with everyone else, but then the dust in the air starts affecting his asthma almost immediately. Buster begins coughing and struggling to breathe, yet he still tries to pretend nothing is wrong. Even while gasping for air, he insists he's fine and says he only needs some water. Arthur notices right away that something is seriously wrong and wants to get the nurse, but Buster refuses help. And this moment says a lot about how embarrassed Buster has become. Earlier in the episode, his friends treated him differently because of his asthma. Arthur acted overly protective, Francine became nervous around him, and Becky kept joking about it. None of them meant to hurt him, but together they made Buster feel separated from everyone else. So now, instead of asking for help, Buster tries to hide the problem completely. The episode quietly shows how dangerous that mindset can become. Buster is so worried about being seen as different that he would rather struggle in silence than let people know he still needs his inhaler. Eventually though, he ends up back in the nurse's office using it anyway, and for the first time, Buster finally explains what's really bothering him. He admits that he skipped his appointment because he didn't want his friends seeing him take medicine again. In his mind, the inhaler had become the reason everyone started acting weird around him. The nurse responds in a calm but important way. She suggests that maybe his friends are not trying to be mean, they just don't understand asthma yet. And that line really gets to the heart of the episode. The problem was never that Buster had asthma. The problem was how everyone reacted to it.
should go get the nurse.
I'm fine. Just need a glass of water. That's all. Ah, that's much better.
It's important to take your medicine, Buster. Why'd you skip your appointment?
I don't know. I didn't want my friends to know about it. They've been treating me really weird.
Do you think maybe they just don't understand?
Maybe. Maybe that's it.
This is the moment where the episode stops being just about misunderstandings and starts teaching the audience what asthma actually feels like. After a normal classroom science presentation, Buster gives his report in a much more unusual way. Instead of simply listing facts, he asks the class to imagine becoming tiny enough to travel inside his lungs. At first, the other kids are confused, but they play along, and suddenly the episode shifts into one of its most creative fantasy sequences. The classroom transforms into a guided tour through Buster's airways, turning something invisible into something the audience can actually visualize. As Buster explains how dust and mold affect his asthma, the environment around the class begins changing. The airways tighten, the space becomes more chaotic, and even breathing starts to feel difficult. Instead of just telling viewers that asthma makes breathing hard, the episode shows what that experience feels like from Buster's perspective, and that's the moment everything finally clicks for the other kids. Once they understand what he's actually going through, he stops seeming fragile or contagious and starts feeling normal again. When Francine asks if asthma is contagious, Buster calmly explains that it isn't. He's still the same person he always was. Asthma is simply something he has, not something that defines him. That's really the core message of the episode. Understanding removes fear, and once the kids finally understand what Buster is going through, they stop treating him like an outsider and start treating him normally again.
My science report is about asthma. But first, I need you to imagine that you're very, very small. You're not imagining it. I really want you to imagine it. Very good. Now I want you all up my nose on the double. Watch your step. No flash photography, please.
I don't think I've ever been in anyone's lungs before.
Help! I'm stuck in so high!
Oh no! George went down the wrong way! He's in my stomach!
Yeah! Custard pie!
Stick with the group, George. You could get lost in here.
Is this where the asthma is? Is it a giant bug that'll attack us?
No. Asthma's just a word for what happens to my lungs when I breathe in dust or mold. Like this. See? The walls are getting smaller. This is when I usually start to cough. Hold on.
Boy, he sure is a good storyteller. That felt so real.
And asthma is not contagious. Any questions?
Are you trying to tell us something?
Yeah, I'm still the same old Buster. I just have asthma. Like I have big ears.
Same old busted big ears? Oh, I'm gonna ace this test.
The episode then returns to the present at the Sugar Bowl, where everything comes back to normal after Buster's explanation about asthma. Buster calmly reflects that once people understood what was happening, they stopped treating him like he was different. In his view, the fear came from not knowing, and understanding fits most of the problem. DW takes that idea and immediately applies it to her own situation with Poison Ivy. She realizes that maybe people were scared of her for the same reason. They simply didn't understand what it was, so she removes her mask and reveals that she's actually DW again, not Otis. It's a small but important moment because it shows she's ready to stop hiding once she feels confident explaining herself. But just like with Buster earlier in the episode, understanding doesn't immediately stop the reactions of other kids. The Tibble twins see DW's rash and instantly panic, assuming it's something like chickenpox, even though she tries to explain that it's just poison ivy and not dangerous. They completely freak out and run away from her. What's interesting here is how the situation mirrors what just happened with Buster. DW now understands her condition, but the other kids don't. So even though she tries to educate them, they still respond with fear and avoidance. Instead of getting upset, DW reacts in a very familiar way. She chases after them, trying to explain everything in detail, insisting it's not contagious and that it will go away soon. This final moment brings the episode's main idea full circle. The show isn't just saying that explanations fix everything instantly. It's showing that understanding has to go both ways. Buster's asthma stopped being a problem socially once his friends learned about it, but DW's situation shows that confusion can still spread when people don't listen or fully process the information.
Once they understood it, it wasn't such a big deal anymore.
Hey, I bet if someone's afraid of my poison ivy, I should just explain it.
Hey, you're not Otis. You're DW.
Sorry I had to fool you.
Look, Tommy, DW's got the chicken poxes.
No, I don't. It's just poison ivy. It's no big deal.
Don't come any closer. We'll catch it.
No, you won't. I'll tell you all about it. Then you'll understand.
No!
Come back here and let me make you smarter. I got it from a plant, and it'll be gone in a couple of days. And the white stuff's called calamine lotion. Hey, wait up, there's more.
Nobody in the story is trying to hurt Buster on purpose. Arthur becomes overprotective because he cares. Francine avoids him because she's scared and confused. Binky jokes about asthma because he doesn't understand it. The real problem is ignorance, not cruelty. And that's what makes this episode of Arthur stand out. It turns a simple medical lesson into a story about isolation, embarrassment, and empathy. Once the kids finally understand what Buster is experiencing, the fear starts disappearing. Buster's story showed us that an illness doesn't have to define who you are, but sometimes illness isn't something you can simply work around. Sometimes it changes everything, and that's what makes this next episode so different. Instead of watching someone learn to live with an illness, Arthur and his friends have to watch someone they love face something they can't fix. In the hallway of Lakewood Elementary, Francine complains that class felt endless and says she is starving. Arthur agrees and wonders what they are having for lunch. Buster pulls out his small notebook and flips through it. He explains that 2 days after a full moon usually means baked ziti. Francine looks confused, so Arthur explains that it is Buster's school lunch almanac. Buster has tracked every lunch since first grade, and he says his predictions are 99% correct. But then Buster sniffs the air. Something feels wrong. It definitely does not smell like baked ziti. The three friends are the first to enter the cafeteria. Instead of a normal hot meal, they see a green bubbling mess in the trays with flies buzzing around it. Behind the counter is not the kind lunch lady, Mrs. McGrady. Instead, a large man in a stained shirt introduces himself as Skip Bitterman, the substitute chef. He scoops out some goulash and drops it onto a plate. The three friends watch as it bubbles strangely, right before a huge bubble pops and splashes green goo onto Buster's face. Right from the start, the episode builds a mystery. Mrs. McGrady is more than just the lunch lady. She makes school feel warm, safe, and normal. When she is gone and the food turns awful, the whole routine feels broken. The scene uses humor to keep things light. The moving goulash and gross jokes make viewers laugh, but underneath the humor, the episode slowly builds concern and worry. It shows how small changes like bad food or a missing grown-up can make kids feel scared and confused, because the real reason Mrs. McGrady is gone is much heavier.
Difference between liverworts and mosses. Class dismissed.
I thought class would never end. I'm starving.
Me too. I wonder what's for lunch.
Hold on, I'll tell you. Let's see. 2 days past the full moon, it should be baked ziti.
What's that?
Buster's school lunch almanac. He's been keeping a record of everything we've eaten since first grade.
Yep, she's 99% accurate. That's odd. It doesn't smell like baked ziti.
Ugh, it smells more like baked gym shoes.
With a side order of sweaty socks.
Who are you?
Skip Bitterman, substitute chef. Goulash, anyone?
Ugh! How
can someone ruin a cracker?
Look at the color of this pudding. I'd save it for my food cabinet, but I'm afraid to touch it.
I give up. The stale roll won.
I wonder where Mrs. McGrady is.
She probably just has a cold.
I hope she's back soon. I think this goulash just moved on its own.
Back in class, Mr. Ratburn stands at the front of the room with a serious look. He says he has an important announcement. He knows everyone has been wondering about Mrs. McGrady. Vicky asks if she quit her job. Muffy says her family could help if it is about money, and Buster makes a wild guess that maybe aliens took her to teach them how to cook Earth food. Mr. Ratburn asks the class to settle down. Then he tells them the truth. She has cancer. He explains that her sister will come stay with her and help take care of her. The classroom goes completely quiet. Francine looks especially upset. Mr. Ratburn also adds that the doctors found the cancer early and are working hard to help her get better. Francine asks the question everyone is thinking and asks when will she come back. This is one of the strongest moments in the episode. Mr. Ratburn says the real word, cancer. He doesn't hide or tries to sugarcoat her illness to his class, but he also gives them hope. The show teaches kids that talking honestly about hard things can make them less scary. It shows that grown-ups can be trusted to explain serious problems in a calm and caring way. The kids' reactions feel real. Some make jokes, some offer ideas, and some just freeze.
I have an important announcement to make. I'm sure you've all been wondering where Mrs. McGrady is.
Did she quit?
If it's about money, Crosswire Motors would be happy to.
The aliens took her. They're making her teach them earth cooking.
Everyone sit down, please. Mrs. McGrady is sick. She has cancer. Her sister's coming to stay with her to help her out.
What?
What? Cancer?
Cancer?
Mrs. McGrady?
The good news is they caught it early, and her doctors are working very hard to make her better. Yes, Francine?
When is she coming back to school?
We don't know that yet, but it probably won't be for several weeks, perhaps longer.
Later, Francine and Muffy are at a fancy store. A sales clerk shows Muffy the 2 ties for her dad. Muffy says both are perfect. Francine sits quietly and barely pays attention. Muffy asks which tie she likes better. Francine makes a small joke, but she does not smile. Muffy tells her to at least try to look interested. That is when Francine finally speaks up. She reminds Muffy that Mrs. McGrady has cancer and says maybe she does not feel like shopping. Muffy brushes it off. Mrs. McGrady will be fine. She never gets sick. Francine responds she is now and shares that her grandfather died from cancer. Muffy calls her negative and quickly gets distracted by a shiny money clip. Francine stares at her for a moment and then walks away. This scene shows 2 different ways kids handle scary news. Muffy pretends nothing has changed. She focuses on shopping and staying in control. It feels like denial, while Francine, on the other hand, faces the fear directly. The episode does not judge either reaction. It simply shows them. That's what makes it powerful. It shows that people react in different ways when someone they love gets very sick.
The one on the left says, I want to rule the world. The one on the right says, I'm artistic and refined. They're both so daddy. Which do you like better?
I think it's a tie. Get it? The tie.
I'll take them both, Sebastian, and please have them gift wrapped. You could pretend to be a tiny bit interested. It is for my father's birthday, after all.
Muffy, Mrs. McGrady has cancer. Excuse me if I don't feel like going shopping.
Francine, she'll be fine.
How do you know that?
I just do. This is Mrs. McGrady we're talking about. She never gets sick.
Well, she's sick now. You know, some people don't get better. My grandfather died from cancer.
Oh, you're being so negative. Look, a money clip shaped like a hubcap. Should I get that instead?
Later, Arthur and DW visit Mrs. McGrady at her house. When Mrs. McGrady opens the door, she greets them and tells them to come in. Once inside, DW pulls a surgical mask over her face. Arthur asks her to take it off. She worries about catching cancer, but Mrs. McGrady gently explains that cancer is not contagious. DW slowly removes the mask. Mrs. McGrady then suggests they all wash their hands carefully since her body is more vulnerable to germs right now. In the living room, she tastes the chicken soup and tells Arthur to tell his dad she would love the recipe. She rests her her feet because she feels a little tired, and DW playfully examines her like a nurse, listening to her knee with a toy stethoscope, checking her mouth, and asking her to say silly phrases. DW notices Mrs. McGrady seems fine and asks if she's really sick. She explains that cancer is different from a cold. She draws flowers and a weed on a sketch pad, showing how the body normally grows healthy cells, which represents the flowers, but sometimes a few weeds appear. Right now, her body is working hard to get rid of the weeds. Arthur notices she's tired and says they'll let her rest. At the door, DW promises they'll come back soon, listing all the things they'll bring next time. This visit is one of the sweetest moments in the episode. Arthur and DW don't fully understand cancer, but they show care in the ways they know best, like bringing soup and spending time with her. DW's nurse costume and fear of catching cancer feel real, and Mrs. McGrady answers her concerns patiently without scaring anyone. The flower and weed drawing is a gentle, clever way to explain a hard topic. It helps kids picture how the body fights cancer and shows hope. Most importantly, Mrs. McGrady stays gentle, funny, and kind. The episode shows that being sick doesn't change who a person is, and that simple acts of love and support are powerful.
Delicious. Tell your father I'd like that recipe.
Aren't you gonna have any more?
I'll have some later. Would you two mind if I put my feet up?
I should probably examine you.
Whatever you say, nurse.
Your knees sound normal. Say Havana bananas.
Havana bananas.
No problem with tongue twisters. Are you sure you're sick? You don't even have the sniffles.
Well, cancer isn't exactly like a cold. There are many different types of cancer. But here, let me try to show you. See, we're all made up of teeny tiny things called cells. You can think of them as flowers in a garden. Your body makes them every day. Unfortunately, my body is also making a few weeds. Right now, my body's trying hard to get rid of those weeds. And it takes a lot of work.
We'll let you rest. But we'll be back. And we'll bring oranges next time. And honey, and videos, and more Mary Moo Cow CDs.
As the episode continues, we see how the news about Mrs. McGrady affects everyone differently. At a soccer game, Francine stands in the goal as Lakewood Elementary plays Mighty Mountain. A ball flies toward her, but she doesn't move. Binky asks how she could let them score, and Francine says the sun was in her eyes, and then tells him winning or losing doesn't matter if it won't make Mrs. McGrady better. She wonders if anyone else feels the same way. Muffy reminds her about her dad's birthday dinner, but Francine says she's not going.
Yeah!
How could you let them get 7 goals?
The sun was in my eyes. Anyway, who cares? It's just a game.
Well, yeah, but that was embarrassing.
What's the point if we win or lose? It's not like it's gonna make Mrs. McGrady better. Am I the only one who understands that?
Oh, Francine, I just wanted to remind you, Daddy's birthday dinner starts at...
I'm not going!
That night at the Crosswire house, Mr. Crosswire opens presents. Muffy watches as he thanks everyone and says it has been a wonderful birthday. Muffy worries that her gifts were not original, but her dad assures her he loved the ties. There's a brief, awkward pause, then she blames Francine's gloomy mood. Mr. Crosswire explains that Francine is upset because Mrs. McGrady is sick. He asks Muffy how she feels. She says she is fine, but a moment later, she hands him the gift receipt and quietly says goodnight.
What great presents. This was a terrific birthday.
My gifts weren't very original.
Nonsense. I loved your ties. Look at these colors.
Chip gave you that one.
Oh, well,
Oh, it's all Francine's fault. She was supposed to help me shop, but she's been so gloomy lately.
well, I can understand why. What with Mrs. McGrady being sick. How are you feeling about that?
Fine.
Maybe you'd like to visit her. I've been meaning to send over a care package.
I am exhausted. Here's a receipt for the ties. It's okay if you want to return them. Good night.
That night, Francine has a dream. She is standing alone in the empty cafeteria. Mrs. McGrady appears and apologizes for scaring her. She says she is just collecting her kitchen tools. She even introduces a spatula named Flip, her lucky helper. Francine asks if she is all better. Mrs. McGrady says no and explains she needs an easier job. Suddenly, the substitute chef appears. Francine runs after Mrs. McGrady, begging her not to leave. Francine chases her down a long hallway, but can't catch up. The next morning, Francine asks her parents if she can stay home from school. These scenes show how sadness can quietly slip into everyday life. Soccer stops feeling important because something much bigger and scarier is on Francine's mind. Muffy tries to keep life normal by focusing on shopping and birthday gifts, but even she cannot hide the weight forever. Francine's dream is especially powerful. It mixes silly details like the talking spatula with her deepest fear that Mrs. McGrady might leave forever. The endless hallway chase reflects how fear can make you feel helpless and stuck. What I really love about this episode is that the story doesn't try to fix things too quickly. Francine is allowed to be sad. Muffy is allowed to hide her feelings. The story shows kids that these emotions are normal.
Cream of bunion soup. I wonder what it looks like.
Yeah. Hiya, Francine. Ah! Sorry to have startled you, dear. I was just looking for something. Waffle iron, pepper mill, egg slicer. Ah! Here we go. Meet Flip, my lucky spatula. Flip and I have been through a lot together, haven't we, Flip?
You're darn tootin'.
So you're back now? You're all better?
No, I just came to pick up my stuff. Because I'm sick, I need an easier job. From now on, I'll be spinning the bingo wheel at the community center.
But you can't leave. This place won't be the same without you.
Sorry, kiddo. That's just the way the crumpet crumbles.
Wait! Don't go! Come back!
What's wrong, Frankie? Bad dream?
Uh-huh. Can I stay home from school today?
Outside Francine's house, she watches her cat, Nemo, play with a ball of string. Binky and Buster arrive with a bag of goodies. Binky notices Francine isn't at school and asks why. She says she just didn't feel like going. And Buster asks if she wants to visit Mrs. McGrady with them. He's bringing vegetables and a special rock. He says it's shaped like Iowa and has healing powers. Francine frowns and tosses it in a bush. Binky gives Francine a small note with Lance Armstrong's email. She asks if it's for biking tips. Binky explains Lance had cancer too. Binky also says that his cancer happened before he set world records. A flashback shows Lance racing in France. Binky explains that people thought he'd never race again, but he recovered and won the Tour de France 7 times. Binky tells Francine she could write to him. She doubts he'll reply and crumples the note, but Nemo bats it back. Francine picks it back up and decides to try to contact him.
Hey, you're not sick? Why aren't you in school today?
I don't know. Just didn't feel like it, I guess.
Want to visit Mrs. McGrady with us? We're bringing her some vegetables and this.
A rock?
Not just any rock. This one's special. Look at it. See? It's shaped like Iowa. I think it has healing properties.
Buster, a rock isn't gonna cure Mrs. McGrady's cancer.
How can you be so sure? Hey, this one looks like Texas.
What's this?
Lance Armstrong's email address. I got it when we met at the bike-a-thon. You should write him.
Why? So he can give me pointers on my biking?
You know he had cancer, right?
No. Is that why he retired?
Are you kidding? He had cancer before he broke any world records and a long time before he retired. When he got cancer, most people thought he'd never race again. But he got better and went on to win the Tour de France, the world's hardest bicycling race. And then he went on to win it 6 more times. That had never been done before. And no one has done it since. Anyway, I thought he'd be a good person for you to talk to.
Like he'd ever write back. All right, I'll give it a shot.
In her room, she sits at the computer with Nemo curled on the bed. She starts typing, then she deletes it and tries again. Finally, she writes from the heart. She pours out her fear and explains how much Mrs. McGrady means to her. Then she asks the most concerning question and asks, will she be all right? She signs her name and then sends the email. As we can see, Francine stops running from her feelings. Buster's Goofy Rock and Binky's email idea show how kids try to help in clumsy but sweet ways. The Lance Armstrong flashback gives hope because it shows that cancer can be fought and people can come back stronger. And by hitting the send button, Francine faces her fear, shares her love, and fond memories of Mrs. McGrady in the form of an email. These scenes also show kids it's okay to be scared, but talking about it, whether to a friend, family, or even a hero, can help lighten the load and ease your mind a little.
Dear Mr. Armstrong, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Francine Alice Hi, Lance. How are you? Hope this isn't a bad subject, but I heard you had cancer and... Oh. I'm afraid. Really afraid. I have this friend. She's the cook at our school, but she's so much more than that. She's Mrs. McGrady. Once, she played in a rock band with me. She's one of the coolest and most amazing people I know. She's really wise, but fun too. And now, she has cancer. So this is what I want to know. Will she be all right? Could you please let me know that? Thanks, Francine.
Back in the cafeteria, Buster stares at a plate of Skip's strange cooking and scribbles in his lunch almanac. Francine approaches, holding a note. Arthur notices her worried face and asks what's wrong. Francine hands Arthur the note. Arthur reads it aloud. It turns out that Lance Armstrong plans to pay her a visit. Brain can't believe it, he wants to talk to her. And she explains Binky gave her Lance's contact info, and she wrote because she was worried about Mrs. McGrady. Buster is excited, then Muffy comes along and teases Francine about her outfit and tells her to meet her after school.
What do you think the orange things are?
Carrots? Maybe cheese?
I'll just say Skip's Mystery Stew number 6.
Hey, Francine. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost.
You didn't eat the stew, did you?
I'm fine. I just received some weird news this morning.
Dear Francine, thank you so much for your email. Maybe I could talk to you in person about your friend when I'm in Elwood City next week. Lance Armstrong?
Lance Armstrong emailed you?
Yeah, Binky put us in touch and I told him how worried I was about Mrs. McGrady.
Hey, guess what? Francine's gonna meet Lance Armstrong.
You're not going to wear that, are you?
What's wrong with it?
You're so funny. Seriously, meet me after school.
Later on, at the fancy store, Muffy shows 2 dresses. Francine looks at them and says it doesn't matter what she wears. Muffy says she plans on visiting Mrs. McGrady and asks if Francine wants to come. Francine hesitates, saying she promised her dad she'd rake the yard. She also admits she just wants to remember Mrs. McGrady the way she was. Muffy rolls her eyes but soon gets distracted by a sale. This scene blends hope with hesitation. Getting an email from Lance Armstrong feels almost magical because he's a heroic cancer survivor who wants to talk to Francine. It gives her, her friends, and viewers real hope that people can fight illness and come back stronger. At the same time, Francine is scared. She isn't ready to see Mrs. McGrady sick and wants to hold on to the happy memories.
The left says smart and sassy. The right says cool and confident. Neither are you, but they're both bargains.
It doesn't matter what I wear. We're gonna talk about Mrs. McGrady, not go to an awards ceremony.
Oh, speaking of which, want to visit her with me? I'm bringing a care package.
I would, but I promised my dad I'd rake the yard.
But it's spring.
So, leaves still fall, you know. And well, I want to remember Mrs. McGrady the way she was. Not sick with cancer.
There you go again, being all doomy and gloomy. I'm sure she's doing fine. Ooh, 30% off.
Mrs. McGrady is in her kitchen washing dishes. Then suddenly, the doorbell rings. At the door, a giant stuffed polar bear tries to squeeze through. DW introduces the bear as Chilly Billy, a gift from her grandma. Arthur tells her they brought 4 more jars of soup. Mrs. McGrady smiles and thanks them, saying she hasn't even finished the first batch yet. Soon Muffy arrives with a big gift basket, and Mrs. McGrady welcomes her in. Everyone sits in the living room with the gift basket and a box of chocolates sitting on the table. Muffy offers Mrs. McGrady a chocolate, but she politely declines. DW tries one and accidentally spills the filling onto the carpet. Before Mrs. McGrady can get up, Muffy jumps in to help. She grabs some paper towels and cleans the mess. She compliments Mrs. McGrady's bandana, and Mrs. McGrady explains it's a temporary choice until her hair grows back from the medicine. DW asks about the garden drawing from before, and Mrs. McGrady shakes her head and says the medicine is helping to get rid of the weeds. She begins to yawn, and Arthur says they'll let her rest, and him and DW head out. But Muffy stays a little longer. This is when she finally realizes how sick Mrs. McGrady really is. Mrs. McGrady tells Muffy cancer is no walk in the park, but she intends to get better. The house visit shows how much Mrs. McGrady is loved and cared for. The giant bear, jars of soup, and thoughtful gifts show kids love in big, awkward, and heartfelt ways. But the biggest moment belongs to Muffy. She doesn't just talk about helping, she actually does it. Her cleaning the spill and seeing the messy kitchen helps her understand what Mrs. McGrady deals with every day. Even so, the episode stays hopeful. Mrs. McGrady tells them her hair will eventually grow back and the medicine is helping her fight her illness. But Mrs. McGrady doesn't change completely. She still remains the same kind and caring person she's always been. The scene also shows us how when someone is sick, life can get messy. Small acts of kindness like bringing gifts, cleaning up, or simply being there can make a big difference, and how love and support can make even the hardest days feel a little brighter.
A cashew cluster, my favorite. Sure you don't want one? They're imported.
Not right now, dear.
Ugh, this tastes like cough syrup. How come I keep getting the gooey ones? DW, watch out!
That's all right. I'll just get some paper towels.
I'll do it. Oh, by the way, I love your bandana. It's so retro chic.
Thank you. I thought about getting a wig, but this'll do till my hair grows back.
Your hair? You mean you're bald under there?
Smooth as a honeydew melon.
It's a side effect of the medicine, but her hair will grow back. See, the weeds keep popping up in Mrs. McGrady's garden, but the medicine's getting rid of them, right?
Something like that.
We'll let you rest now. Come on, DW.
I thought the bandana was just a style choice. I had no idea you were so...
Sick? Cancer's no walk in the park, but if it makes you feel any better, I intend to get better.
The doorbell rings at Francine's house. Francine's sister, Catherine, opens the door and is shocked to see Lance Armstrong. Just then, Francine walks in wearing a fancy blue dress. Catherine offers Lance a drink, but he laughs and says he's fine. He turns to Francine and asks if she wants to go for a bike ride. Francine agrees, but runs upstairs to change into regular clothes. Soon, Francine and Lance are riding their bikes up a hill and onto a forest trail. Francine tells him he doesn't look like someone who had cancer. Lance explains that he was very sick, and some doctors didn't think he would survive, let alone race again. Francine asks how he got better. Lance says it took medicine, several surgeries, and most importantly, support from family and friends. Francine wishes she could do something to help Mrs. McGrady. Lance tells her that being a good friend is already helping. Francine wonders if there might be a special plant somewhere that could cure cancer. Lance says maybe someday someone will discover something like that, maybe even her. But for now, there are other ways to help.
Someone who's had cancer.
Why is that?
I don't know. You're so healthy.
When I had cancer, I was very sick. Some of my doctors didn't even think I would survive, let alone ride my bike again.
So how'd you get better?
Lots of medicine, a few operations. I also had tons of support from my family and friends.
I just wish I could do something.
Being a good friend is doing something.
Do you think there's a plant somewhere that could cure cancer? Maybe in the rainforest?
There might be, and you might be the person to discover it. But until then, I can think of some other ways for you to help.
Back at school, Francine hands out flyers for the Pedal for a Cure bike race, Buster and Binky quickly sign up. Francine points out how everyone is helping in their own way. Prunella is knitting a scarf. George is taking care of Mrs. McGrady's garden. Binky is passing out flyers. Everyone is doing something. This scene shows Francine turning her fear into action. Meeting Lance Armstrong inspires her because he survived cancer and overcame huge challenges. He doesn't promise a magic cure. Instead, he shows that support, kindness, and friendship truly matter. When he tells her that being a good friend is important, that becomes the heart of the story. Francine takes that lesson seriously. She organizes a school bike race to raise money and support Mrs. McGrady. The episode shows that even small acts like visiting someone, bringing soup, knitting a scarf, or helping in the garden can make a real difference. It also shows how scary cancer can be, especially for kids who feel helpless when someone they love is sick. But the story reminds us that hope comes from caring, friendship, and working together. You don't have to fix everything. Just showing up and helping where you can make life feel a little lighter.
Pedal for a cure. Oh, it's to help fight cancer. Okay, I'll do it.
All the money we raise goes to help people with cancer.
We're all doing something.
Prunella's knitting Mrs. McGrady a scarf. George is helping out with her gardening.
So I expect all these to be handed out by the end of the day.
Francine says that over 70 people have already signed up for the fundraiser, and it's only been 3 days. Muffy suggests bringing a celebrity to help, like Lance Armstrong. Francine reminds her that it was actually Lance's idea in the first place. Muffy quickly changes the subject and asks if Francine wants to visit Mrs. McGrady. Francine hesitates and says she still has flyers to hand out, but promises she'll visit soon and hops on her bike. Muffy arrives at Mrs. McGrady's house with 2 large bags. Mrs. McGrady steps outside with her sister Martha, who has flown in to help. Mrs. McGrady asks if the bags are for her. Muffy says yes, but offers to come back later. Mrs. McGrady laughs and tells her to leave the bags inside and help herself to some food. The sisters head off to a doctor's appointment. Inside, Muffy opens the bags. They're full of cleaning supplies. Martha pops back in for her keys and encourages Muffy to help clean. Muffy slips on bright pink gloves, and then suddenly the doorbell rings. It's Arthur standing outside with a crate of oranges, and DW carries a toy monkey. Muffy explains Mrs. McGrady is at an appointment. Arthur says the oranges are full of vitamin C, and DW says that the doll came free. Together, they get to work. Arthur washes dishes and takes out the trash. DW dries and ties up the trash. Muffy dusts, vacuums. When Mrs. McGrady returns, she finds the house spotless. A bowl of oranges sits on the table with a note saying they cleaned the place up for her. And this is where the story's message really comes into focus. Francine is helping in big ways with the fundraiser, but still avoids visiting because seeing Mrs. McGrady sick feels too real. Muffy, who used to focus on shopping and gifts, steps up in simple, practical ways. Arthur and DW contribute too, bringing health, comfort, and care. The episode shows that support doesn't need to be loud or flashy. Small everyday acts like washing dishes, vacuuming, dusting, and leaving fresh fruit can make a real difference. They say, "We see you, we're here for you, and we care."
We tidied up a few things. Love, Muffy, Arthur, and DW. Your support team.
The big day has arrived. The Pedal for a Cure bike race is about to begin. At the starting line, Lance Armstrong stands beside Francine. He looks at the crowd and thanks her for all her hard work. The horn blasts and the race begins. Francine pedals hard, passing Muffy, Buster, and Arthur. Her breathing gets heavy, and suddenly her imagination takes over. She's riding through the rainforest. In her fantasy, she's searching for a cure for Mrs. McGrady, and along her way, she spots a bright red flower, but suddenly returns back to reality. She crosses the actual finish line, and the crowd cheers.
Hey, the finish line is this way. Where are you going?
To find a cure for Mrs. McGrady. There it is. Plantus curable cancerous. Just a little bit farther.
Mrs. McGrady is there smiling. She says Francine did an amazing job and jokes about calling it the Tour de Francine. Francine asks if she's all better now. Mrs. McGrady says, not yet, but she's feeling pretty good today. Francine apologizes for not visiting sooner. She admitted she was afraid. Mrs. McGrady reassures her that it's normal to feel scared. Then she hands Francine a small bottle of hand sanitizer. After cleaning her hands, Francine hugs her tightly, and they both say how much they missed each other. Francine spent the race imagining herself as a hero, finding a magical cure. But the real lesson isn't a miracle plant. It's about showing up and giving support. The fundraiser, the house cleaning, and now the hug at the finish line. These acts don't cure cancer, but they create real support, friendship, and courage. The episode doesn't pretend everything is perfect. Mrs. McGrady isn't magically all better, but sometimes small wins, like her feeling good at that moment, are enough.
Wow, that was some performance. We should have this ride every year and call it the Tour de Francine.
You came. Does that mean you're all better?
Not quite, but I'm feeling pretty good today.
I'm sorry I haven't come to see you. I was afraid that...
You don't have to explain. It can be pretty frightening to see someone you care about when they're sick. There is something you could do to make it up to me, though.
Just name it.
First, put some of this hand sanitizer on.
Now what?
Now, give me a big hug.
I've really missed you.
I've missed you too, Frankie.
What made these episodes so powerful was that Arthur never treated illness like something that only happened to other people. Buster's asthma showed kids that living with a medical condition doesn't mean giving up the things you love. And Mrs. McGrady's cancer showed them that sometimes the hardest part isn't knowing what to do, it's simply being there for someone. Arthur understood something a lot of children's shows didn't. Kids can handle difficult subjects when you trust them enough to explain them honestly. And that's why these episodes still hit so hard years later. They weren't trying to scare us. They were teaching us that when something scary happens, we don't have to face it alone.